this might be literally the most valuable thing that anybody listening to this gets out of today.
So the big question is, what are top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? To get the answers, we interview top real estate agents to learn their secrets to success. Listen, we believe every agent should make a minimum of $100,000 per year, and we're on a mission to make this happen. We've already helped over 100 agents achieve this with our coaching. So if you want to fast track your business growth, get to your first $100,000 in GCI or add another $100,000 in GCI using social strategies, then head over to go.eliteagentsecrets.com, or you can just click the link in the description below. Also, just make sure to follow us, hit that subscribe button, and if you get any value from this at all, please tell a friend and leave us a review. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Elite Agent Secrets show. Today we've got Luke Medico with us. He's been an agent for the last 7 years, closed 400 deals, got a small team of 2 agents and admin. He also started investing in real estate in 2015. He does 5 to 10 flips a year, and he also has a portfolio of 56 units, and he's passed $1 million net worth as of 2018. So he's going to bring some heat for you today. Today we're going to be discussing authenticity, knowing your numbers, and finding ways to solve problems. Luke, thanks for jumping on the show with us today. Willing to share your secrets to success for our audience. We're looking forward to diving right in. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. I like how you said I was going to bring the heat because, believe it or not, in high school, I was voted most likely to bring the heat. Okay, so here I am.
What are the odds?
I'm fulfilling that prophecy. I'm here to talk and whatever. And, you know, I always find the term secrets interesting, right? Because it's when you come down to it, there really are no secrets, just information you don't know yet.
100%, yeah. So it's
go ahead.
No, it's kind of meant to be like a play on words. The fact that all these real estate secrets that people think they don't know, actually, a lot of the secrets revolve around hard work. Is a lot of it is like just work. Like you put in the work, you'll get a good result. So I 100% agree. But you got to love a secret, right? You got to. The curiosity catches the cat. Secrets
equal sexy, right?
Yeah.
You hear that, you want to listen to it. The only thing, and I like it in this context, but man, you see it especially in our industry. You get emails every single day about come learn the secrets to this and come learn the secrets to that. And next thing you know, you're putting your credit card, you're signing up for some nonsense training thing that you really don't need. And if you stick to the fundamentals of the business, which are very similar to the fundamentals of life, I'm like, everything just kind of works out in your favor.
Plays out.
And to be honest with you, sometimes the secrets are the things that we've known all along. We've just been in denial for so long because we're looking for the next secret to get us to where we want to go a lot faster and a shortcut. Meanwhile, the secret isn't a secret. The secret to the secret is doing the fucking work. That's the real secret. Yeah.
The secret is, there are none. And everything you need is right in front of your face. And if you get pulled in by the shiny objects and the next big thing and whatever, you get pulled away from what the truth is and you go out there. And I'm not stating this from a point of authority, like I'm impeccable with this. For Christ's sakes, I struggle with it on a weekly basis. Sometimes I'm like 2 hours in and looking at something like, what am I doing? How did I end up here? How did my attention get, manipulated? But yeah, it's cool. I enjoy what you guys are putting together here. So where are we going? What do we want to talk about first?
So we usually try to kick things off by giving a little bit of context and a little bit of background about you and how you got into this industry. So let's take it back to day one. Tell us, why were you crazy enough or sane enough at that time to get into real estate and walk us through your first year?
Sure. Well, I was fortunate enough that I got into the industry because I had $129 saved so I could take my classes online via Groupon. That's a true story. I got my license from Groupon. Tell everybody that. They don't believe me. I say, bullshit. I have the proof of it. And I did it. So my trajectory.
That is so fucking awesome. Let me just say that, because starting from there, we know a little bit of your background. The audience is going to listen to it. But that's such a long way where most people are like, I got my last dollars. I got a Groupon. Yeah. Groupon buying, right? Which means you like to barter, you like to get a deal. So I'm curious to see how this really unfolds as we dive in and get more detail.
Well, I didn't have any. I wasn't down to my last dollar. Don't get me wrong, but I just like, hey, I had the $129 saved or whatever it was. I said I'm going to do this. The trajectory for me, I was a teacher. I was a teacher for 11 years. I taught in Center City, Philadelphia, North Philly, and that was a great time. It was amazing. I thought I would be a teacher.
Philly in the house. I love it. I just moved from Boca, from Philly as well.
Oh, okay, there you go.
That's why I saw the Sixers hat. I wasn't going to mention it, but got to mention the Sixers.
Yeah, all these connections. But and I lived in that area for the better part of a decade, and it was awesome. But when I was teaching, this is an important part of the story. I became a teacher because I had one or two good teachers. And I had a lot of real shitty teachers. And I saw the effect that both of them made. A good teacher will change your life. A bad teacher will pull you down, right? So I decided, hey, I don't think this is that hard. I want to be a teacher. So I did that. I'm like, I'm just going to do the right thing. Whatever I feel is right. I don't really care what I'm being told to teach to the kids. I'm going to teach them what I think is right. And I had a really cool job. I was a gym teacher, for Christ's sakes. Like, I wore sweatpants every day. I still kind of wear sweatpants every day. It's a beautiful thing. So I got in because I saw that a change needed to be done. It was a very important job. Then when I went to purchase, the first house using a real estate agent, was talking to a bunch of different people, didn't know anything. And I could see how some of them literally, like, there's no clue. And they didn't really care about the human being. They cared about getting a deal done. And then I came across a couple agents that, like, I felt were good people. Lauren Dickerman, if she's ever, we'll say it, not busy, and she listens to this, as a shout out to her. Back in the day, she helped us, my wife and I, buy a home, and I was very impressed with how she handled herself. And I was like, wow, there's all these not good real estate agents, and then one good real estate agent, and then I'm sure there's more like her. I think this is very important. I would like to do it, right? And then a few months later, that's when I said, hey, Groupon, take my $130 and let's see what the hell happened. So I stepped in with the mindset of, if I could sell a couple homes a year and teach, that would be awesome, So that was 2014-ish. And then in 2015, or was it? No, it was the end of 14. My wife tricked me into having unprotected sex. And that led into us having twin daughters. So my whole mind kind of shifted in the way I looked at life and the way I looked at stuff. And in teaching, I was getting a little bit burnt out. It wasn't as fulfilling for me anymore. And I really, an important thing for me was to have complete control of my own destiny. Right. And a lot of people throw around the entrepreneur word, which I think gets I'm tired of hearing it. It gets misconstrued and whatever. But anyway, I wanted to bet on myself. So as the kids came and I was near burned out, whatever, I said, I'm just going to bet on myself. The worst case scenario is this doesn't work out, and I'm a stay-at-home dad while my wife goes to work. That was okay too. I would have been okay if that worked out. So I did that. And in the first 6 months, I did approximately 10 deals, and I made more than I did as a teacher. And I was like, well, holy shit, that's interesting. Okay, got it. Then I stuck for a whole year after. And then that year of 2015, we had twins in May. I was a full-time teacher, and I was a full-time real estate agent. I say full-time real estate agent because I was obsessed with it and I was insane. So I would literally, many times I'd stop teaching in Chinatown, right? I'd be done at 3:00. I would drive 2 hours up to the Poconos because that's where I was from, to show a $75,000 house and then drive back. And I was like, well, I don't know, like, I'm nobody in this industry. I really need to make a name for myself any way I can. So it was through hustling, right? So then I did that. And then just every year afterwards, it just kept building. It was like, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It was like, all right, I did sold 30 homes and then 50, and then it's like, 60, 70, right? And it just kept growing and growing. And I was like, well, that's really rad, So that's kind of like a trajectory of what happened.
I love how humble you are through the whole story too. It's like, started out 6 months, 10 deals, I made more money than I did at teaching. That's how I got out of my corporate job with my first business. And one day I made more than 2 weeks at my corporate job. And I was like, ooh, if I can just do this once a month, that means I don't have to waste the whole month. One day, 1 month, that's 29 days extra.
Yeah.
I think I'm on to something. Yeah. Right. And one thing led into the other. And it's just like snowball effect. You said 10 deals to 30, to 40, to 50.
Yep. And that'll tie into one of our other topics, because those numbers don't even matter. Right. And it was what I learned, like, you come in the office and there's like a leaderboard and you're like, ooh, I'd like to do that. Right. And then your whole focus is like, I'm going to be number one on that leaderboard. I'm going to sell the most units in the office. And those numbers don't mean shit. It's literally, it's nice for the ego. We all have one. We all want to be recognized and whatever. But in our industry, there is a giant focus on your volume. How many units did you do? And then also, I don't know your guys' experience, but it's never enough.
No,
right? It's never enough.
You do 100 million in sales. You're like, okay, I got 100 million. Let's get to 200. You do 200. There's a guy that does 500. When you get to 500, there's a guy that does 1 billion. We know some of those. We featured some of those guests on our podcast.
Yep.
And it's never enough.
No, well, it's never enough until you wake up. You have to do it personally. From any brokerage standpoint, just pick one. They're just going to keep pushing you to double or triple or whatever it is, because those are the numbers that don't matter. They're public facing numbers and whatever. It's like, for what I've found personally and through a lot of other friends, is like people just put their happiness on hold. Be like, well, you know what? I'm going to keep my head down and grind it out for 2 years. And, once I make 500,000 a year, then I'll be happy and whatever. And it's all a mirage. It's all complete bullshit. It's all complete bullshit. There'll never be a number.
No,
money doesn't have anything to do with happiness.
No, totally true. Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that. So we're the bigger team we're a part of. Insane numbers. The goal last year was 1,000. Ended up doing 1,308. So nearly 30% over. Was like, cool. So then we had the meeting, last week, 2 weeks ago, and it was like, what's the goal for this year then? It's like, why don't we do 2,500? So over double, 25 units this year. And then we got chatting the week after, and then I was like, actually, there's a couple of other investors. So going well, actually, no, the number's 3,000. Anyway, so the numbers we did in January was 311 units in January. And it's like, but the thing is like, you're right. It's because for us, it's a challenge. Like we want to challenge, like doing 3,000 units in a year, even 1,000's no joke. Like, you're up there, but what I want to do, I'm curious actually with your story, your first 10, that's what I want to know about, because this is where everyone struggles. It's like getting off the line, and then it was a snowball by the sounds of things. So walk us through what was your lead sources for your first 10? Was that friends, family, sphere?
I will tell you mostly about all of those first 10, but I wanted to circle back to something you said, and it's super, super important. And this might be literally the most valuable thing that anybody listening to this gets out of today. You just talked about the goals, right? Yeah. We're going to push to 2,500. We're going to push to 3,000. Where does it really come from? Right. So what I'm trying to get across, and when I teach and bring any of these conversations up to people, we have these goals, and especially in real estate, I think 80, 90% of the time, they're completely arbitrary.
Yeah, of course.
They're just putting a random percentage on what you did last year and leveling up and leveling up and leveling up. The problem is that never ends, and it just increases stress. And it becomes just a thing. It's like, oh, that's just what we're doing, right? So there's no there's reaching the goal you feel either nothing or you feel a little sad.
Well, if we go into this on like a personal level with goals, and for our listeners, I think this is insightful because I think it really, how you feel when you hit a goal really depends on where the goal comes from, right? Like you said, so if it's completely arbitrary, why? Because when I've hit some of my goals, I feel utter fulfillment because it matters for me for a reason and there's a purpose behind the goals. When I get there, I'm like, fuck yeah. And like you fil fulfilled. But when other things, like you said, it's arbitrary growth. Yes. But like we're growth people, like this is the way we work. Yep. And like, every month right now, for example, this show, we absolutely love doing it. And the growth margins, like I've personally set is I want it to grow 50% month over month, which we've hit, which is crazy considering we don't promote this. This is word of mouth, people loving the content, getting value, sharing it, which we're so grateful for. But like comparatively in month 4 or 5, we do like nearly 10 times the downloads we did 4 months ago, right? We do more downloads in basically a day now or a couple of days than we did in the whole first month of the show, right? Which is amazing. And I'm glad people are getting values, but the growth is arbitrary to a certain point because like I set a goal and I want to hit this many downloads. I want to help this many people by this date. And I know once I've hit that goal, I will have a sense of fulfillment because all the other things are just a point to get there. But then after that, then what happens? And I don't have the answer to that question because I have this goal and I've had it in my mind. I'm like, this is really what I want to hit. Anything past that point is awesome, but it would just be arbitrary again. It's just, but then what's the real reason? I mean, I like this because I think goals should have purpose, but I also don't think there's anything bad about having arbitrary goals because one of the things that I think in society as a whole, we get wrong is the whole conversation about money. And people think you've got to have a purpose to behind wanting to make a lot of money, which I actually think is bullshit. I think it's absolutely okay to want to make a shitload of money because you want to make a shitload of money. I don't think you have to go, no, it's because I want to save orphans in Africa or some shit. I think you should have a conversation with yourself being like, I want to make a shitload of money in my life so I can do whatever the fuck I want. And that's your right. And I believe everyone should do that. Like if that's what they want, that's what I want. Right. And that seems somewhat arbitrary. And I'm not saying when I've got 10 million in the bank over, say, $1 million, I'll feel any better or worse, but I just believe it's my right as a capitalist to go out there and make as much as I can make because I can. And obviously you do it in a way in which is fair. It's not about stealing and all that shit. We're not going down that road, but I think I think fulfillment and also can come from progress and that comes from setting your goals. I went off on a bit of a tangent, but I'm quite passionate about some of this stuff.
It's important. In what I was going to say that with the money thing, it's totally okay to make money. Totally okay. Anybody that tells you differently is full of shit. The issue that I was kind of put is like, don't put your happiness on hold thinking once you make $500 million, $100,000, $1 million a year, that there's going to be some sort of
bucket of happiness
change within inside of you, right? It's literally more like at that point in time, unless you're spending like a lunatic, it's just like, hey, you can just kind of do some neater, cool shit, right? And like money's not that much of a factor. But with these arbitrary goals, I'm just, the point of all that was create your goals out of your values. Don't sit down with your goals first. Sit down with what the hell do you value?
Yeah.
Right. And then you can align, here's what I value. What goals do I want to make as? And that process is much more beautiful and like fulfilling and meaningful. And that's just, it's something that's important to me now in life where I've done the head down, business for a long time. And I see it's like, it just kind of leads you to nowhere per se. But it's just an important thing for agents.
It's interesting that you bring this up because recently I was watching a video and this is from one of our mentors as well. And he goes, as long as your basic needs are fulfilled, AKA, let's say your bills are paid, you have the things you want, you have, you can go out to dinner however many times you like with your family, and you have your basic needs that are satisfied. Anything above that, it doesn't really change or impacts your life drastically, right? No. Unless you have this drive to acquire more and more stuff. Mm-hmm. So by having the money and having the goal is to get you to a certain point. Anything after you hit that goal, it's basically just like cherries on top of your ice cream. Like first you need the cone, you need to fill it, and you need to have, your scoop, 2 or 3 scoops or whatever is you're into. But as soon as you got that full ice cream, like you don't need 50 more scoops because you're never going to be able to finish it.
Right.
So having more just gives you options, but you can't have more when you're operating from a place of, scarcity.
Yeah.
Per se, right?
Yeah.
So having more just gives you the option. If you want to get involved in the charity, or if you want to, like to Andrew's point, save kids in Africa, awesome. But you can't do it if you don't have the money. You don't have the funds, you don't have the resources, right? Yeah. And you're also not thinking at that level when you can't provide, food for your family, or you can't. So certain things kind of have to give. So until when you have the goals. And look, to your point, what I think is very, very important is like you got to figure out where you want to go and what that looks like, so you can actually recognize it when you hit it, to have the happiness and the fulfillment. Because if you're like, oh, I'm chasing after 10 million bucks, and you get to 10 million bucks and you felt that this was going to feel or be different,
yes,
you have no way to measure it and compare it. So now you're like, oh, I got 10 million bucks. What's next? 100 million. And now you're chasing, right? Again. So Andrew and I go back and forth about this all the time, about what our mission and what our vision is. And in reality is it's not an arbitrary thing, but once we hit that goal, now we have the option. Do we want to continue? Do we want to have more time? Do we want to have more freedom? Do we want to travel? Do we want to get involved? Do we want to give back? All these other things. And you know what? It's okay to make a shitload of money. And it's also okay to make just enough money so your bills are covered and everything is covered. And you want to go and, fuck off for 11 of the 12 months. And you just work for 1 month.
Sign me up for the fuck off vacation.
I think the other thing about understanding values and progress and everything we just discussed on like a very actionable way, strategy, apart from thinking about yourself and what's going to make you happy, is actually this helps with alignment with growing a team. So one of the things that people don't understand is that when you understand what your team values, you also can build benefits and systems around them to make them happier. So a prime example is, we'll just go for kind of like sales. It's like 99.9% of the time they're driven by money. So if you can just get them paid more money, they're going to be happier, right? But then there's maybe another role like client success, admin, whatever you want, marketing. They might be family. They value time more. So they don't want a pay rise. They want a day off a week. They want another day off, or they want a half day or 2 half days. So this all kind of, everything we're talking about, we've kind of spoken about authenticity and us opening up about what is authenticity to us. But your first topic is about authenticity and being about, being who you are. So explain what you mean by that and what that means to you.
Well, it's kind of, in a societal standpoint, I would say, just speaking of the agent, but most people, we're kind of led in a certain direction, right? You see a lot of stuff, real estate related, like, I've done 5 deals and I want to look like I'm a badass. So I'm going to grab a suit, borrow a watch, rent a Lamborghini and take a really cool, I'm using air quotes because I think it's dumb, but it is what it is, picture, right? And then put it on social media, whatever. It's like, listen, I don't know if anybody's noticed this lately, but the most productive way of being a salesperson, period, is to not really be the stereotypical salesperson. That shit from the 80s is done. Like that sort of like fake, put pressure, all that kind of stuff. It's crap. Be 100% who you are, right? And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do at first, because a lot of us, we don't even know who the hell we are. It's a learning process. So, what I mean by that is like, if you wear certain things, if you talk a certain way, you drive a certain car and that's who you are, whatever, don't think that you need to change any of that at all to be successful in business. Now, there might be some businesses somewhere where this doesn't apply. I'm coming from the standpoint of I don't want to be associated with that business ever, because if I couldn't be myself, then it wouldn't feel right. So just people coming across and who they are. And like, I use a very dumb example for this, but like, sometimes I don't shave. And by sometimes, I mean like most of the time. I just don't like to do it. I just cut my hair. I just cut my hair like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Prior to that, it was 2 years. I mean, I did look like a semi homeless hippie, and I'm okay with it. It was a fun time. But it's just who I was. So I would show up to places and this is who I am. And if, for some reason, somebody doesn't want to do business with me because of a certain, way I look or the words that I use or whatever, fine. I'm okay with that. I don't want to do business with those sort of people. I want to do business with people I'm aligned with. So by being kind of who you really are and not putting up, smoke and mirrors game and not talking in circles and shit, you align with the right clients and the right people. So that's kind of my message across with like, authenticity, but also don't be afraid to change too. You might realize something you've been doing your entire life is like, maybe that's ass backwards. And you thought that was who you are. And now you can just let it go and kind of step into more of who you are.
Also, being fake or unauthentic is really fucking hard. It's genuinely like very, very tough because you've got to keep this persona up all the time. And like humans, as dumb as I think we are at times, are actually incredibly smart. And we have got that sixth sense. Like most people can just sniff out bullshit. Like it's just something doesn't feel right. And if you ask someone why it doesn't feel right, they can't tell you either. They just goes, yeah, I don't know, but there's just something that doesn't quite feel right. And 9 times out of 10, not 10, but 9 times out of 10, you're right. There's something about your gut instinct and we're not sure what it is. We've never figured it out, but that is what being, unauthentic does. And one of the things about being authentic in the way you're talking about as well is it also provides niche selection, however you want to say it, which is something that's very understated in the industry because everyone tries to serve everyone. And we're big advocates for like one niche, one channel, one source. You can make well over 6 figures a year. And it's like you said, I'm going to present myself in a certain way, like Peter turn up with Leah, do a showing like he's got his daughter, like it's just a reality, not in a suit. This is how we sell homes. We're normal people. We've got families, lives. Like this is how we do business.
Big time.
If you want us to, turn up in a Lambo, fully suited and booted and all that stuff, it's like, we're not for you. And that's totally cool. I have no problem with you feeling like that about me. And because ultimately there'd be, and not saying animosity, like there's always going to be professionalism there, but it's like, you just don't hit it off the same way. And like, when you're selling homes to people, like this is usually their biggest transaction of their life. And it's like, it's scary, but it should be fun. Like as fun as you can make it. Like it should be a good time. Like it shouldn't be like this stressful, awkward, like just bad experience with the person. You should I always think like you should actually like your realtor. You should like hanging out with them, if the realtor's doing a good job after they've sold your house or bought your house with you, they should stay in touch. Like that's what we do. It's about staying in touch with people. If they're local, you grab a drink at the bar, whatever. That's not weird. That is actually like, for us, how you should do business. Like, hey, we're people, you're people, like we like you, we should hang out still.
I think it's highly, highly normal and natural. If you connect with somebody, you're helping them to the best of your ability. And it's like, yeah, you've developed a little bit of a relationship. And unfortunately, some things and people will be transactional in this. Right. As a real estate agent, you should never, ever, ever look at anything as transactional. Like, oh, Bill, let me do this deal, get this done, close that check, and I'm never talking to anybody ever again.
Yeah.
No, like that's just not the right way to.
It's like this. It's this aha moment when you realize you're not in the real estate business and you're not in the sales business. You're in the relationship business.
That's it. Relationships are the new currency, man.
Big time.
For sure. And you have to foster all those relationships and take care of your people. And like that's, you do the right thing will happen to you.
Right.
And you know what you're talking about before about that thing, like You know when something's off with somebody, right?
Yeah.
You have that, and it's a gut feeling. And, you know, we say that a lot, but like there's actually a physiological response that happens in your gut. And that, if you can get in tune with that energy, like that's much more intelligent than your brain, because your mind's going to screw you over. You're going to you might go visit a client and you get a weird feeling about them in your gut. And you're like, yeah, we're not aligned. This isn't good. But your mind comes over top and says, shut up, bitch. This is a $400,000 house and you're going to sell this and you're going to make it right. So then your mind's a real dick. But like the more you can actually pay attention to what your body says, the better choices you make, the better things are. It's just not an easy thing. It's not something you switch overnight and you're like, yes, I'm listening to everything in my body now. And damn you, ego and mind, you're never coming into the play again. I'm like, that doesn't happen. But being aware of it is a super valuable tool for people.
And how often is it that we've all heard these stories? I'm thinking about one I literally heard, is it yesterday or the day before, when someone's gone, I took this buyer, it felt wrong, but I needed the money. Or I took this seller, it felt wrong, but I needed the money. So I took them. It's been a nightmare ever since. And it's like, I know you needed the money. I understand that. We've all been desperate and broke at one point in our careers. Like, we're with you. You got to say no. You got to say no. Like, it sounds fucked up. You got to say no.
I would argue is that as much as you need it, that's when you're being tested, right? You know you need the money, but more importantly, you need the lesson that person has walked into your life for, to know next time on how to recognize it, when to say no, how to set the boundaries, expectations, whatever it is that you need to actually walk away from that experience and that relationship with. It's coming in at the right time. And sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that come at the most inconvenient times. And you're wondering and asking yourself is, why is this happening to me? When in reality, you should be asking, why is this happening for me? What can I learn from this? Right? Because if you are at the top of your career and somebody like that walks in, you know, mentally you're in a different place. It's going to be a lot easier to just be like, oh, I've seen this before. I'm out of here. But when you're in that desperate state and somebody walks into your life, you're like, oh shit, I need the money. So now you don't have the money. Your mental bandwidth is taken up. Your emotional bandwidth is all taken up. Your time is now all taken up. So it's almost like you're dragging yourself deeper into the situation than being able to know to walk away from.
Yes. And I've watched myself be guilty of that in life. 100%. I've transitioned away from that, but I watched it. And I remember like listening to an agent talk in my office, and they were just talking about a certain client and how they were like, they went for a listing appointment, but they were very difficult. And they were, you know, it was like they were driving them down on commission. They wanted this and they wanted that. And the other agent was like, yeah, I said, I can't work for you. And I walked out. And me being, you know, I'm in the game for about a year. I'm sitting there like, holy shit. I'm like, I'll take those scraps, you know, like here, give that to me. So I think it's a mindset as you progress. It's kind of, you know, when you step in, I mean, there's more agents in the United States than there are homes for sale. Like, I think that's actually accurate. I heard that.
Really?
I think if somebody could look that up and fact check me at one point, that would be wonderful. But I heard that very recently, and I'm like, you need to step out and kind of give people a reason to want to work with you, because there's so many options. And I think in the beginning of your career, it's much harder to say like, no, I'm not going to do this because I'm not aligned with that person energetically. It's like, no, I'm going to do this because I'm going to get it to close and I'm going to make money and whatever. So I saw that transition from like the different stages you are in your career, where you're like, I'll work with anybody, I'll go anywhere, I'll do whatever. And then as things go, you tighten up. And honestly, I find when you tighten up and you're a little more kind of firm, the right clients kind of come to you.
They totally do. They totally do.
The intent is different. Your energy, what you're putting out is different. You know, you're being a lot more deliberate about what's going on.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, would you consider yourself a maverick? Are you an agent, team leader, broker owner who's constantly striving, pushing boundaries and smashing goals? Well, we've already helped over 100 agents cross $100,000 and up in GCI per year. So if you're interested in learning more about our courses and coaching to help you scale your business, then head over to go.eliteagentsecrets.com.